Good morning, everybody. I just posted our post, so I really don't like to do like the rollout videos, but I felt I'm supposed to do one right now. It's cold and it's early. I've got up at about 4, which is good for me because I got to do some work. You know, I have a friend right now. I'm still a friend of mine, still see him regularly. And he told me about one of his court cases. I've had many friends that have had, you know, time in prison, but one of his cases, there was time he did in prison that was, justified. But one of them was a case out of Nueces County, and he had a defense lawyer by the name of Carl Lewis. For you La Raza and Nick Jimenez and all you wonderful promote the Hispanic, even if it's a judge that has committed multiple crimes. So Carl Lewis, you're familiar with him. He was a good black man who was a defense attorney here in Nueces County years ago. And he became, I believe, the district attorney. I know he made it into office. I think he became the DA. But my friend, who was white, he had a case where Carl Lewis was his court-appointed lawyer. And at the end of the case, it was resolved or whatever, but he was not actually supposed to do prison time for that particular settlement in that case. And so they made a mistake on the paperwork. And they, of course, even though it was resolved, he went back into the jail because they still had to process him, but they forgot to process him, meaning he was supposed to be out. And it was sort of like the paperwork, but he's white. And so over a period of a few months, he talked to his lawyer. He said, I'm not supposed to be in jail. And he already did maybe 6 months. And he was not supposed to do that time. And what Carl Lewis told him when it came to his attention, he almost like finished maybe halfway through the year, whatever. And he said, just finish the year, though you're not supposed to be in jail. Because the courts had decided this was one like a plea and he was not going to be in jail. He was going to be on probation. But they just made a snafu. And he said, what we'll do is you'll finish the year. At that point, the year was almost up, I guess. He said, we'll just do a civil suit. We'll sue the county and you're going to get money for that year. Now, at that point, right at the end of his year that he was not supposed to be in jail for a year, Carl Lewis became the district attorney. I remember when he became DA. He took a position of authority within the county. And then he told him, I can't do your case now because I'm working for the Nueces County prosecutors, DA, He said, well, what am I supposed to do? I said, you'll have to, I'll hand it over to someone else. We'll do something like that. And then Carl Lewis sadly died. I forget how he passed away. And I thought, and so that was it. Did the year. And then I see, let's talk about Moses. Let's talk about the Jewish Moses. The Jewish Moses was a little boy, he was a baby, at a time where there was a pharaoh. The Egyptians had the people of God as slaves. But they were reproducing, multiplying. So he's hatched this plot. And he said, we're going to just kill all the male children. And the Hebrew mother of Moses put him in a little basket, like an ark basket, and floated him in the water. And there was a woman one day walking down and heard this baby cry. And she took that child, regardless of race. She knew it was a Hebrew. She knew it was from slave blood. According to her heritage, she was an Egyptian. She took this kid, regardless of race, and she bonded and loved that child. But she never told him what his real heritage was. And then he grew up as like a foster son of Pharaoh, because the woman that took him was the daughter of Pharaoh. And he rose to prominence as an Egyptian. And then one day, and he saw those slave people who were in bondage, the Hebrews. But he lived the life of an Egyptian. And it says in the scripture, he had all this wisdom of the Egyptians, and all the wealth and all the benefits that come with that particular race of Egyptian blood, because these were the people that were in power and in control. The Egyptians were. And the Hebrews, they could be like my Anglo friend. Oops, one year, Mexican judges involved with all types of corruption, 0. Should have done multiple years for some of those crimes that judge I covered last year, for those that are not familiar. And then lo and behold, guess what? Moses realizes one day, it's revealed to him, you're a Hebrew. The people that we treated with disrespect all these years, these slaves, these Hebrews, you're one of them. And in the book of Hebrews, it says he forsook all of that, the riches, the honor, and the status. And then he identified with the people. And God used him tremendously as a great deliverance. And from the lips of Moses, he said, Moses said this, I'll quote him. He said, the Lord your God one day will raise up a prophet like unto me, speaking of himself. And whoever does not listen to that prophet is going to be destroyed. And he was prophesying of Jesus Christ. Because in the New Testament, that quote from the lips of Moses, it's referring to Jesus Christ. Which is an amazing thing. The Jewish Moses. And so that one case that I just gave you, which is true, shows me that in this county and in these courts, it is a disgrace that you would associate particularly with one race against another. Okay. The real Moses.